100%. Guys.
Oh my God.
Guys.
That's not good.
No, it's not good. Take the time to do a little bit of research.
Wow.
Know what this food does to your body. A few tips, okay?
Word on the streets, it's BowlzNBeatz. What's good, everybody, and welcome back to another episode with your girl X. Today we're actually talking about something I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time, but I just wanted to make sure it was with the right person. So joining us today is a certified nutritionist and my good friend, Jessica. Well, welcome to the BowlzNBeatz podcast, Jessica. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I'm just going to get straight into it. We're going to keep it real and raw and talk everything health. Okay. So what made you want to get into nutrition to begin with?
I think what really motivated me the most was just my personal experience with nutrition. I had a lot of mental struggles, and I noticed that, if I ate crappy things, I felt crappy. There had to be some type of connection here. So I wanted to look into how I could support my body best, but also my mental health as well. And then I kind of learned about the soul. So this kind of dove into my holistic nutrition career that I have now. Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, me and Jessica actually went to high school together.
So
did. We've been following each other on the gram way before all this stuff. And I watched her growth, and it was so nice to see. She started to post yoga videos, and I thought that was so cool. So how did you get into yoga, and how did it change your life?
Yoga.
She's a huge yoga advocate.
I am. I got into yoga, I think the second year of post-secondary. It was a regular class. We had a gym. I went to Humber, so they had the gym there. They would do yoga usually every single day. And me and my friend used to go there before class. We would actually go to the gym first and then do a yoga session. And I realized I preferred how my body felt during yoga over working out.
Interesting.
I noticed that when I worked out, I was very stimulated and very anxious throughout the day. But when I did yoga, I was a lot more calm, a little bit more restorative. There was a lot more intention with my day. Right before going into this holistic program that I did, I wanted to know a little bit more, so I ended up taking my yoga certification, 200 hours. So then that's kind of what made up my yoga.
That's why you're here,
right? Yeah. But during that course, they make you do yoga every single day, and you have to journal it and then submit it. So that really made me very accountable. And after that, I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to keep on doing it after. So I did.
Awesome. And I'm glad you did, because my audience already knows I'm a huge meditation advocate. I love meditation, and yoga kind of goes hand in hand. So how do you feel like it's benefited your life, and what are the benefits of yoga and meditation? Because not a lot of people realize how much power is in that, right?
Yoga, I feel like a lot of people say this, but yoga is a lot more than just the physical. I learned that there is a lifestyle aspect to yoga. There's an ethical practice. And so most yogas take the practice off of the mat into their real life. And there's this thing called the Eightfold Path. And asanas, which is the posture part, the poses, the movement, that's actually ranked third to bottom. So that's not even the most important. The first two, which is the foundational ones, are called yama and niyamas. So yamas is how we relate to the outside world. Niyamas is how we relate to ourselves. So what's going on with our inner world. And that is what expanded my horizons on this whole mental health and connecting the mind, body, and soul.
I think that's really cool. And it's interesting that you mentioned that people who practice yoga or meditation kind of bring that into their lifestyle, because it's true. I've noticed that even with myself. When I started to meditate, I noticed that I was also kind of throughout my day practicing being kind with myself, mindfulness, gratitude, all that stuff. And it really benefited me mentally. I was telling Jessica this before we were filming, when I was going through the hardest time in my life, what really got me through it was meditation. And a little bit of herb use, but but mostly meditation. It really helped me kind of get through things I never thought I could. Even physically, I was also telling Jessica that I would get gut pains. And she was explaining to me how the mind and gut have a connection. So I kind of want to talk about this because not a lot of people know about it unless they've experienced it. Because it's not something we're even taught in school. I had no idea till I was physically in pain and had to kind of learn for myself, oh my God, like it's my mental health. It's speaking to me through my body. So how have you kind of learned about the mind and gut connection through yoga and meditation?
Ooh, I have a theory. Okay. I have a theory that when we're talking about the mind, a lot of people automatically think about the brain. Like the mind is in the brain. I think that the mind is not only in the brain, but it's in our entire nervous system. So when we feel upset, automatically our body is going to react like that. So it's important to realize that instead of racing up to the mind, because normally people like overthink and a whole bunch of stuff goes in their head and then they ruminate and then they get stuck in a whole cycle, we need to take a step back and go back into the body and really try to settle our emotions.
And you only find that out through personal experiences sometimes, unfortunately. Like when I was going to the doctors, they were telling me, okay, there must be something physically wrong with you at first. You're feeling this gut pain. And then I had to learn from myself, okay, when I meditate, I suddenly feel better. When I'm being mindful, I suddenly feel better. When I smoke weed, that de-stresses me, I suddenly feel better. And I learned that it has such a powerful connection.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think I necessarily learned that during yoga. I think I learned that more throughout the holistic nutrition school that I went through. Just realizing the different types of nervous systems that we have, and that our gut has its own nervous system, and that's called the enteric nervous system, and that is a part of the autonomic nervous system. So if we were to be like, we feel it all the time, if we are super nervous, usually a lot of people have to use the washroom, or they get constipated and they can't go, and this is that brain talking to the gut, trying to see where we could spend energy and where we can reserve energy. And a lot of time we end up reserving energy either through the gut or through the reproductive system. But there needs to be a conscious connection there, right? We have to tell ourselves to calm down, and we need to know the practices to calm our body down, and that is very subjective to the person, obviously. So there's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So fight is like, I'm ready to attack, like, I'm ready to go. Flight is obviously you have that response to ditch. Freeze is like you're so overwhelmed with everything, you just like shut down in that moment. You close off. You don't really want to hear the other person.
Like a no response.
Yeah. And then fawn is like you just want to please the other person for the sake of ending the argument.
Oh, interesting.
And that usually comes when people have experienced some type of trauma, some type of like heartache or things like that. Right.
So you guys heard it there. Go through it. Try to figure out who you are so that you can help yourself.
Yeah, most people are fight or flight. Like, I mean, given today's society. But we need to find moments throughout the day to tap in to our parasympathetic nervous system so we could calm everything down.
And how can we do that? How can we find moments? Because people are so busy nowadays. They're like, I have a million things and one to do, that they don't even take the time to just breathe.
Yeah. I think really how you set your day is the most important. If you wake up and you're on the go, like you wake up, you hit your alarm like dozens of times, and then you finally brush your teeth, and then you realize, oh shoot, I can't even make a proper breakfast, and you shower, you whatever, and then maybe you eat on the road. So if that is your morning routine, maybe starting there, reassess something, because it is true. The way you start your day is the trajectory of the rest of your day. If you are a type of person who is very stressed and you want to look more into how to tap into that rest and digest state, start with the morning. So wake up. If you need to like set your alarm an hour early, do it. Like just do it for the day. See how you feel. If you don't like it, then maybe you could go back. But if you notice that during that day you actually feel pretty good, then maybe sticking with it. Doing some type of movement in the morning is good too, because we're very stagnant during the night. When we wake up, we want to get the flow, the chi, that energy kind of moving through our body. So doing some type of light movement is good, or doing your workout in the morning is fine too. And then obviously like sitting down, breathing, enjoying a nice cup of coffee, looking out at the sun. I think looking at the sun, being in nature. Actually,
sometimes I think it's just me. I'll feel like the sun on my face, and I'm like, am I the only one who really appreciates these moments? So I'm like, I love when the sun's hitting me.
I heard recently that even listening to birds chirping is pretty close to you being actually out in nature. So if you are very stressed out, you know, find some like birds chirping on YouTube and like listen to it, and that's a way for your system to think, oh shoot, wow, we feel pretty relaxed right now.
Wow, it's actually really interesting that you say that, because throughout my years where I was like super stressed and I was trying to find ways to cope with it, I would wake up an extra hour early. I would take a bath to kind of just relax. I'd wake up feeling sick and anxious automatically. And then I'd go outside with my cup of coffee and my joint, and I'd watch the sunrise and listen to the birds, and suddenly 100% better. And it's funny because I always thought I was a night person throughout my teenage years and early 20s, because I was like a big party girl. Like I always thought I was a night person. Turns out I'm actually a morning person. Like I love my mornings. Sometimes I go to sleep looking forward to my mornings. That's how much I love my morning routine.
Sleep is probably the most important. I think sleep is that foundational piece. If you don't have your sleep in check, it's very hard for you to work on the other pillars of health. Naturally, if we don't get enough sleep, we are going to have a higher stress response. Our cortisol is going to be a lot higher. And because of that, our insulin is also going to be a lot higher. So you'll notice if you get a crappy sleep, or only like 5 hours, 3 hours of sleep, you're going to be craving a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of quick energy, because that's what your body is in desperate need for. It's used up very fast, so our body could feel it immediately. But with these simple carbohydrates come a very steep crash in energy. So that's something we kind of want to be mindful of. But also, when you wake up with the sun, this actually helps your circadian rhythm as well.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. If you wake up with the sun, you'll get that nice spike in cortisol. Just because I don't really know the scientific term in your eye and the brain and how it does that. But when you do that, cortisol will spike, and this actually helps melatonin spike at nighttime. And normally if you were to sleep to 12, it's going to be very hard for you to fall asleep at a decent time, because melatonin is just not being produced anymore, because you just didn't get that nice cortisol spike in the morning.
So to anyone who might be struggling with their sleep schedule, because that's something I used to struggle with as well, was just getting a good night's sleep. I was like constantly in fight mode. Even when I was sleeping, like I wasn't really sleeping well. So do you have any tips on how to get that good night's sleep?
Sleep hygiene is super important. Close all the curtains. Make sure your room is dark. That's what you like. You like darkness. Setting the temperature a little bit cooler is good too, because our body temperature actually rises during night. Sleeping naked is also really good too. Sleeping naked actually helps a lot. Guys? Obviously, like I don't even need to say this, but I will say this: put your phone someplace else. Like
it's not obvious. You think it's obvious. It's not.
Put your phone someplace else. You really don't need it. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you normally check your phone, please don't do that. It doesn't help.
Even with
at
Netflix,
all.
You have Netflix nowadays. You have TVs. Everybody leaves it on.
I have a bad habit of doing that. I fall asleep with the TV on a lot. Maybe if you normally eat dinner pretty close to bedtime, maybe pushing it forward a little bit, so leaving at least like a 3-hour gap so you kind of digest a little bit. That usually helps as well. Honestly, there's so much. If you Google sleep hygiene checklist, you'll find
check that list.
Yeah, you'll find a whole bunch of them. There's tons of tips.
Cool. And how about for mindfulness? Do you have any tips for mindfulness?
Mindfulness,
that's
is
we can practice
a muscle.
Throughout the day.
Yeah, you have to use mindfulness as if it's a muscle. So if you don't use it, you'll lose it. That's essentially it. So if you, for example, atrophy, like if you don't use your biceps, you're probably going to lose it when you're older. So mindfulness is intention with every action that you do, intention with your thoughts as well. And then with the actions that you're doing, multitasking, just don't do multitasking. If you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. Focus on cleaning the dishes.
Be present.
Like you really want to be turned on with all your actions. That's really what it is. You have to find pleasure with everything that you're doing each day. that's
which in this generation, that's difficult. People always have their phones, their screens kind of distracting them from like actually focusing in the present.
Multitasking is not a thing. Like, we shouldn't really be multitasking. It's a single task type of deal. That's really how our brains are made. Sometimes, you know, if you go for a walk and you're listening to a podcast, that's okay. If you're working out and you're listening to music, that's okay. But even maybe one session not doing that, so you really have that mind-body connection, that is also a form of mindfulness too, right? So really just paying attention to your daily actions, what you're doing, and find joy with what you're doing.
I love that. I love that. And obviously you're a nutritionist, so you know all about nutrients. And we were actually discussing this right before we were airing the episode, how what you're ingesting and what you're consuming when we're talking about food is really important. So what nutrients are your favorite in terms of like helping you with your mood?
With my mood?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So protein, like protein.
Okay.
You have to. There's
a mood
actually,
booster?
Oh,
okay.
There's certain foods. Okay, I'm gonna throw a little science here, but we have
Food
different,
charts.
obviously, amino acids, right? Amino acids are what protein is made out of, right? And we have those essential amino acids, the BCAAs that we hear people taking, right?
Right.
And then we have the non-essential amino acids. There's certain foods that are higher in this one called tryptophan. And tryptophan is actually a precursor to making serotonin. So for example, turkey. Turkey is so high in tryptophan. Tryptophan is made, or we make our melatonin from tryptophan, which is why we feel very sleepy after eating our Thanksgiving turkey. But then soon after, at nighttime, we're usually like very joyful, very happy. We're happy to like spend time, and that's because it's now made into serotonin. So that's one thing. So focusing on your protein intake is big, not only for that, but I think in general, we need protein to make all the neurotransmitters in our brain, also the neurotransmitters or the hormones in our gut.
Good to know.
I'm gonna say healthy fats as well. So we need to know the difference between our fats. So the healthy fats are like the avocado oil, olives, olive oil, coconut, nuts, seeds, but also animal meats. The saturated fats as well are very important. The bad fats, I don't want to say bad fats, they're more accurate to say rancid fats. These fats are the highly inflammatory fats. So if you have, you know, a tendency of being a little bit more anxious, or if you have an outburst of emotions often, I would say look at your fat intake. So are you eating a lot of processed packaged foods? Because all of that is rancid fats. What about fried food? Canola oil, soybean oil. Soybean oil is the number one because it's hidden in basically everything. We could buy nuts thinking that they're great, they're high in omega-3s.
Oh my God, yeah.
But oftentimes they are wrapped and coated in soybean oil to extend the shelf life.
Wow.
So we really got to look and make sure we're getting a well-sourced nut, seed, or really anything.
Oh, wow.
And then also protein fats. I'm going to say carbohydrates too. We want to support our blood sugar the best that we can. So the simple carbs, the pastas, the breads, the pizzas, all the ones that we really like, anything wheat or gluten, really, those are going to spike our blood sugar the most. And when that happens, we have a spike in cortisol, and that is how we get into a persistent low mood, anxious thoughts, overthinking, and things like that.
Interesting.
So stick with the complex carbs.
You know, it's interesting, like this generation where we're talking about how everyone has like mental health issues and they're struggling with their mental health, and it's never talked about how it might be our food. Like no one ever talks about how maybe it's the food we're intaking. Like it's always some other reason, some other outlet, when it's that simple. Like that's why when we go on vacation, like, and you're eating like organic foods, you feel so good. You're like, I love my life because we're eating good food as well, right? So I like that you mentioned that, because that's a difficult one for a lot of people, even myself. Like processed foods everywhere, especially in Canada, like it's so difficult. So do you think it's even possible to kind of live a healthy lifestyle in this generation?
I think so. You just really have to take charge of your own life. You have to realize that you are responsible for everything in your life. Anything anything put in those shelf aisles. Like when we go to the grocery store, we should be going the outskirts and then going to the shelves. Everything in the shelves is the processed packaged foods. Being very mindful when we shop into those sections, or even like maybe not shopping in those sections because you really don't need it. The manufacturers purposely make it that way so that it kind of hacks these circuits in your brain to make you want more.
That's crazy.
So really
like
taking the time,
drugs.
to take the time to do a little bit of research, know what this food does to your body, if it's good, if it's bad, and so forth. Yeah.
Wow. And even when we're talking about like the skin and organs, the way organs function, like junk food is obviously a big factor in negative outcomes. So how do you find that like your skin has changed and even your organ production when you've changed your nutritions? Like I said, I went to high school with her and she is looking good. Like your skin is glowing. Like you can really tell you're taking care of your body.
Yeah.
So how has you find it's also affected your skin and like your organ production?
I mentioned to you before, like I did have acne growing up, and it really got worse during puberty. But then I went on the hormonal birth control.
During your teenage years?
During my teenage years, and that is what cleared up my acne.
Wow. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I know. And then after, when I got off of it, luckily I didn't break out. Normally a lot of women do break out because of the withdrawal and everything. So I kind of lucked out there. But also, when I did decide to stop taking the birth control, I was already taking action on my health. So I already made those adjustments to like the carbohydrates, the fat, the proteins, and making sure I get enough minerals and vitamins, but also fiber. I think fiber is probably the most important. If we want to get rid of all the gunk, eat a lot of fiber. That is what's going to kind of push everything out. And I think fiber in terms of like gut health, liver health, everything.
Me for the
like
next
that.
week.
Yeah,
Fiber.
Fiber. Just eat a whole bunch of fiber. If you think you're eating enough, you're not eating enough. 110%. No, 100 no.
And I like that you brought that up because I actually have a question about you for you about cleansing. I've come to you before about smoking. Once I was like super sick and like my lungs were just hurting. And Jessica's always on Instagram about nutrition, so I'm like, let me ask her. Do you have any tips to smokers how to cleanse your lungs and kind of cleanse your body overall? Because after a while, as much as I love weed, after a while it does build up. The mucus builds up. The pain in your lungs builds up. You know, you feel it in your body. So how do you kind of cleanse yourself from smoking?
Well, first, I'm gonna be honest. Look at how much you're smoking. Okay, if you notice you're smoking a lot and you really don't like how it's making your respiratory, your lungs, your throat feel, maybe start lowering
Cutting
the
back.
dose a little bit. I would say start there. But other than that, there's a whole bunch of companies that make certain respiratory cleanses. St. Francis is probably one of my favorite. So if you go on their website, it's Canadian too. So if you're in Canada, you get the Canadian prices, no US prices. So I would say go there, and they have like a whole bunch, and it's usually a tonic. So there's a whole bunch of herbs in one bottle. That's probably the best bang for your buck. Other than that, I recommended NAC is probably a good one too, just because it helps with the mucosal.
That's a pill, correct?
Yeah, it's a supplement. It helps with the it's
NAC.
Yeah. NAC. It's something our body naturally produces, but we could also consume it externally through supplements. And that really helps with the healing of the mucosal lining that lines your tract and your bronchioles or whatever, all those alveoli.
And you've used it before yourself?
I have.
Did you notice an actual difference?
I've noticed a subtle difference. I haven't used it in a while. With any supplements, I would say cycle your supplements. Maybe do it for 3 months, take a break, and then do it again for another 3 months. Don't do it continuously. Because again, if you don't use it, you lose it. So if your body is constantly reliant on these external supplements, your body might be like, okay, well, I don't really need to make it no more. So,
Exactly.
And then obviously there's general ones too, like ginger, lemon, anything like that. Anything anti-inflammatory I think would help too. So quercetin, that's a supplement that you could get. But it's also in garlic, onions. And then, of course, there's like essential oils like eucalyptus. I think that's really good too.
Oh my God, I love eucalyptus.
Yeah. So if you get a nice steaming pot of water, drop a few eucalyptus in there, and then kind of get a towel and just breathe in that steam. Just
eucalyptus is actually like a lifesaver, like for real. Especially someone who has asthma. Like I always thought everybody knew this, but I guess it's only like asthmatic people who kind of know that eucalyptus really helps.
Yeah. It
so I
just
tell my
helps
friends,
open
and they're like, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like, "It's a plant."
Yeah. It is. It's really
and it's
good.
amazing. Like you automatically feel your airways open up, like automatically.
It's even when you're sick, like if you're sinus infection, anything like that, it's a eucalyptus.
It's crazy.
Is the best way,
it's really crazy how natural things from the earth are really the best remedies. And you're an expert when it comes to that. You love holistic things, which I love as well. So do you have any herbs of your own that you prefer to like consume other than cannabis?
I don't know if I would say herbs, but I would say adaptogens. So adaptogens really work on your adrenals. So if you notice you're very stressed, that is something I would recommend. So there's ashwagandha, which is, I feel, very big nowadays. Ashwagandha and rhodiola are probably my two favorite. I do like rhodiola the most. I actually took like 2 capsules before seeing you today because it really helps with the cognitive function, cognitive stamina, but also it helps with physical stamina as well. It helps just cushion the adrenal so you're not as stressed out when you do perform these activities. Ashwagandha has I say a little bit more of a calming effect. If you deal with a lot of anxiety associated with your period and things like that, ashwagandha is something I would recommend as well.
Interesting. Okay. And I like that you brought up the periods because I want to talk about that. Not only is she a nutritionist, but she's all about, women's fertility, women's flow, women's periods. And I feel like that's something we need to talk about more. I don't know why people are like so scared to talk about periods. Like I remember growing up, it was literally like saying Voldemort. Like it was like, you do not talk about it. You do not say that word. It's cringe and it's weird. And it's like, why? Like it's literally something that happens to everybody, most people. If not, you're a lucky girl, okay? But it happens to most people, so it's something that we definitely need to talk about more often. So I want to talk about PMS because you mentioned that what you consume when it comes to food changes your mood, but PMS is like a whole nother topic, which a lot of women don't even know about because we don't really talk about it. It's a taboo thing. I really even thought it was taboo. A myth. For the longest time, I really thought it was a myth. I'm like, that's just a thing guys say to be assholes. But it's not.
No, it really isn't.
I realized as I was growing up, I'm acting crazy right now. Like, so how do you kind of regulate your mood when you're on your period? Yeah, how do you deal with that? Yes, guys and girls. Some advice for the fellas too. How do you deal with women on PMS?
I think the first step
just stay home.
Hide.
I think the first step is to really grow some type of cycle awareness. You need to know where you are in your cycle. Like you need to know. If you know where you are, you could be proactive instead of reactive.
So do you use like those apps?
Okay.
Because I heard like weird things about those apps. Okay.
So the apps, it's a very cookie cutter 28-day cycle. Like ovulation happens on day 10. Luteal phase is only 12 days long, but that isn't realistic. Like very rarely do women have that cookie cutter cycle.
Right.
So I don't prefer the apps like that. There are certain apps that allow you to track your cycle more accurately, but I use FEMM. FEMM. It has like a purple logo, but you would need to know what to look for. So if you download the app and you're looking at it, you're going to be like, what the fuck is this? Like what? You need to know what exactly to look for. So obviously we know when we're menstruating. That's when we're bleeding. So when you see red, you know you're on your menstrual phase. After menstruation is the follicular phase. So there's kind of 2 halves to this. Immediately after menstruation, hormones are very, very low. So there's not really much happening in the ovaries, no estrogens being produced. Eventually, the brain is going to be like, okay, we're ready to get this cycle going. So the brain is going to release a hormone telling the ovary to start maturing an egg within a follicle. We do actually mature many eggs, but only one lucky one is chosen, the chosen one, Harry Potter, if anyone knows Harry Potter. But that one is chosen, and that now becomes the dominant hormone, and that's going to produce most, if not all of the estrogen in our first half of the cycle. And then we start producing estrogenic fluid down there. It's called cervical fluid. So that's like the discharge that we see on our underwear. At first, it's very minimal, it's scant, and then it becomes increasingly more abundant. So then you'll notice it'll get a little bit more fluid down there. Maybe it'll resemble that egg white consistency. It's very slippery, lubricative, or it's very stretchy. When you see that type of fluid down there, you're ovulating. That's something we want to see, and that has a lot of taboo around it, I feel. Because it's like, ew,
oh
discharge.
my God.
Nah.
So weird.
Yeah,
Growing up, it was like a bad
We need
thing?
that. Like, we need that. We need
So
that.
stupid.
Without that, I'm gonna be honest, without that, sperm will not survive. So if procreation is your goal, like if you're trying to have a baby, if you're not producing that type of cervical fluid, sperm will not survive.
Interesting.
And you won't fertilize the egg, nothing.
Oh.
So when sperm is in contact with that fluid, it actually lives up to 5 days in the vagina.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Which is why we are fertile for
it's like
5
a coat
days. Yeah.
protecting him.
It's like, okay, now let's go.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. So that now is the ovulatory time. So that's when we're usually very sexually, like getting into it. We feel very turned on about life. We want to go out. We want to book dates. We want to do a whole bunch of stuff. We may even notice that we get a lot more attention from the opposite sex too.
Oh my God, yeah.
There's usually that week where we're like, why the hell is every guy honking their horn at me? And that may be when you're ovulating. Weird. Because you're actually releasing these certain hormones. You look differently to men.
That is
your
so
brain on the pill. That book, I can't remember who it's from, but that is how I learned all of that through that book.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting book, so I highly recommend that. After ovulation, if the egg isn't fertilized, it dies off. It's gone. After the 3 days after ovulation, the cervix closes. After that, we are infertile, so we can't actually get pregnant after ovulation. So that's a pretty safe time to have sex, right? You could be as fun as you want.
Good to know.
So if estrogen doesn't drop after ovulation, that's how we experience PMS. So if estrogen is up here and progesterone is over here, we're going to experience PMS. Naturally, progesterone should be a lot higher. When progesterone is high and optimal, we feel great. We feel calm. We feel very relaxed. We get the best sleep possible. But like we said, a lot of times women don't really experience that. They have a little bit too much estrogen during that second half. So I think it's very important for you to know when you're ovulating. After ovulation, you'll know, okay, this is the 2 weeks where I'm a little hit and miss here. Like, I could be fine, but also if you say something, I'm gonna rip your head off type of thing, right? So we really need to know when we're ovulating, and we also need to know when our next period comes. This phase, that second half of the phase, by the way, it's called the luteal phase. That phase is very stable. It never changes. So from ovulation to the next period, usually it's like between 11 to 17 days. Mine is always 13 or 12 days, always. It never fluctuates. I know on the 10th day, it's like I gotta keep my tampons, pads around because I know my period's gonna come 2-3 days from now. Right. So it's that type of awareness I think women need more of. But then again, this type of education isn't really out there.
Talked about, right.
So you do need to take a little bit of action here and learn a little bit. You kind of
and knowing your own period, obviously, then you can share it with your partner or whoever you're with that you're stressing out.
You could communicate, but I think your partner would also kind of know as you're gaining more education. You're gonna feel motivated to tell your partner, and he is going to listen, although he might not look like he's listening. I know he's listening, and he'll be like, okay, well, she was pretty sexually active now, for this weekend, and then maybe on Monday she ends up being a little bit more standoffish, she's more tuned in, she wants to be a little bit be more alone essentially. Then he would know, okay, I know her period's coming up soon, so maybe I should do something to kind of make this time a little bit better for her. Maybe I won't be as annoying. Right. Because we love when you're annoying, don't get me wrong, we absolutely love it, but there's a certain time where we're like, oh my god, you have to say that, you do have to say that right now. But it's okay, we love you anyways.
So what advice would you give to any partner out there that's dealing with someone who doesn't really know their period cycle, that they're possibly thinking they have some serious PMS, but I don't know how to tell her? Because that's been my man.
Ooh,
and that's kind of like,
Interesting.
hearing that is kind of also a trigger, right?
Okay.
Because you're kind of like,
I would say,
like, what are you trying to say? Like, am I crazy?
Yeah, right.
Right? Guys love using that word crazy, and that doesn't help.
Yeah. I think we have a lot of focus on the period part. Like, we call it the menstrual cycle. In reality, it should be called the ovulatory cycle, because menstruation is a byproduct of ovulation. So if ovulation was good, menstruation is going to be good. If ovulation was poor, menstrual phase is going to be shit. So I would say, as a partner, being like, hey babe, I hear it's good to know like a little bit more about when you were ovulating. Right. How about we try to find out that? I also hear it's a good time to book dates and whatever. Try to not make it about like the mood part, but try to focus on the positive, the good that you want to bring to the relationship.
Right.
Because
you could bring out the good in her, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Which isn't talked about as well in this generation, how, good masculinity also brings out good femininity.
100%.
We're always talking about how there's toxic masculinity, but that's also stemmed from toxic femininity as well. Like, they bounce off of each other, right?
If you know you're going to be with this girl for the rest of your life, and if you know you want to have a family, it is very important. Like, you need to know when you are ovulating. If you don't know, then that's where a lot of the struggles, the infertility struggles that men kind of go through, right? So.
And I actually want to ask you this, because since you're someone that's an expert with periods and stuff, now they have a thing called Diva Cup.
Oh yeah.
Would you say that's a good, like, I guess, substitute for tampons and pads?
I think if you are on top of your hygiene game, then you're good. But then again, you also need to know your flow. Like, the cup is only a certain size. I can't remember how much it holds. But if you're on the heavier side, then maybe a Diva Cup won't really work for you. Also, if you're on the lighter side, then why would you really want to have that big cup inside of you if you know you're not going to bleed that much to need it? I also have heard some stories of, like, it may be difficult to take out depending on the shape of your cervix, really, right? That's very different depending on the woman.
Okay.
Right?
I also heard some things. This might be a myth that, like, tampons actually aren't really good for you.
No.
And, right, it's interesting because they were, like, made by men, and it's like it's not really made by women for women. So these are things we're gonna have to talk about as well to try to find a new.
The tampons and the pads aren't really the greatest, just because the amount of chemicals that are in it, and the bleach and everything like that. And
does that affect your fertility?
Fertility, no.
Okay.
Maybe like toxic absorption.
And do you find that fertility rates have increased or decreased?
Decreased, 100%.
Okay, interesting. Now, this 100%. Is obviously, like, we're going to have to kind of watch what we say here, but since the vid, get it right? The vid.
Okay, yeah.
Since the vid and everyone had to get the jab. Do you think, like, that's affected fertility? Because there's also a myth going around saying that what we ingest in our body in terms of, like, needles and jabs, that also affects women's fertility.
I have heard that. I have heard that it does something to the whole cycle aspect, to that brain ovary connection. I don't know. I don't necessarily know for men, because men don't have a cycle. They're not as sensitive.
Have
to
their
that type
fertility
of stuff.
rates gone down?
Oh, 100%. Guys.
Oh my God.
Guys.
That's not good.
No, it's not good.
Oh my God.
Yeah. A few tips, okay?
Well, that's crazy, because I always see posts about how women's fertility is going down, but never about men.
Okay,
my goodness.
I actually I listened to this the other day. So if, like, back in the, I think it was 1979, they did a test. So per ejaculate, okay, one liquid equivalent to a millimeter. I can't remember the conversion or anything like that. So
a little bit of sperm.
A little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. Back in 1978, they used to have 99 million sperm in that one little drop.
Holy shit.
Guess how much men have now? It went down to 17 mil.
Oh,
okay, which is a big drop from 99 to 17. That's huge.
That's crazy.
That's huge.
That's called stress.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's stress. like I was saying before, sleep is huge. All men make their testosterone and sperm during nighttime, in between 10 to 3.
Wow.
Okay, like I said, that's why men usually wake up with a heart on, because they have the highest amount of testosterone at that time.
Wow.
That is also the best time for you men to work out, because you'll get the most gains at that time too. So that's a big one. You need to sleep. Like need to sleep.
I'll start tomorrow. Yeah, right.
Also, heat is like another big one.
Heat
is huge. Okay, like I know the saunas are big, the heated car seats are big too, but I think that with all of this new invention, like all the heat invention, it hasn't been doing well to male sperm count, as well as like laptops on your lap, the heat from that's not good either. All of that reduces sperm count. Okay, so that's something you really need to pay attention to.
How about like TV screens if they're playing video games, like super close?
I think that's fine.
Like
it's more the sitting. Like if you're
Okay.
sitting for a long time, there's no flow down there, so there's not
Okay.
really much activity happening.
Wow.
Also, if you ride a bike a lot, that's not really the greatest too, because it does create a lot of heat in that area. If males have, like, if you have bigger thighs, you generate more heat in that area, so that may also lower your sperm count as well, which is again why men sit with their legs wide open all the time.
Oh my God.
To get all the cool air.
That's
in there.
hilarious.
Yeah.
I always wondered
Yeah,
that.
I used to talk shit all the time
why
in
do
grade
they say
7.
like that?
It's
They
like,
think they're
why?
shit.
Like, why? Like, what's down there? Well, now I know there's a
That's
reason.
hilarious.
There's a reason.
sperm down there.
Yeah, there's a reason. So like, yeah, it's a
Interesting.
scary
But why do you
thing
think
now.
it's decreased? Because of just lack of sleep and stress?
I think there's
Like junk food doesn't have like
100%.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Okay.
that definitely makes a big difference too.
okay.
But more lifestyle stuff like
Drinking
too. Yeah,
Okay.
drinking is never
How
good.
about smoking? Since this is a cannabis,
Yeah,
does
yeah,
cannabis, would you say it decreases?
I don't know. I don't necessarily know. I know maybe for testosterone production, but I'm not 100% sure. I do know it has more of an influence on the female body because like I said, we are so sensitive to stress. And although cannabis could be used for amazing things, if we do smoke it, it is a form of stress. It causes oxidative stress, so it does something on a cellular level.
What if we consume it?
Consuming it is a little
Does
bit
that like
better.
change the whole game?
Yeah,
Okay,
like in terms,
interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've always heard it is
Cool.
better to consume, or even
Okay.
doing like a oil or something like that.
Okay.
I do recommend like cannabis to my clients sometimes.
Because it is a big form of de-stressing.
Especially if they have problems sleeping. Appetite's a big one too, and
Right.
if they're super stressed, that's
Cool.
That's all very, very helpful.
Are there any pointers or tips you can give people to kind of increase their fertility?
Obviously, number one, you would have to know when you're ovulating. So if you would like to know, you could always reach out to me. I would love to help you with that, like help you learn if you're very curious. Also, just watching those fats, watching the fats and the carbs. You really got to pay attention to those. Those are silent killers, really. And stress. Really look at your stress load. So if you don't feel good by the time you go to bed, maybe it's time to reassess, change up your routine a little bit, see where you could conserve more energy and where energy actually needs to be spent. You got to revamp everything in your life, really. Eat dark leafy greens. Like, I know it's not favorite for many, but I'm talking about the cruciferous vegetables, the broccoli, the cauliflower, the Brussels sprouts, Swiss chard, rapini, kale, spinach. All of that stuff is so loaded in nutrients, and it is also very high in fiber. That's the stuff we want for female and male fertility, because they actually, in females at least, they actually help with our estrogen detox and production.
Amazing.
So yeah, dark leafy greens, 100%.
And take those greens, guys. So before we wrap it up, I actually asked Jessica if she could do a little yoga session with me because she is so amazing, and that's something I want to get into. So we're actually going to do that all together so you guys can join us as well. So let's get to it.
Yay! So we are going to get started in a seating position. So we could sit down, you could go on your knees if that feels comfortable. And we are going to start with our breathing. Nothing special here, just regular inhale And exhale. If it feels natural to breathe out through the mouth, do so. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. This next inhale, make it a deep one. So a deep inhale. And a long exhale. Deep inhale. And long exhale. One more time. Deep inhale. And a long exhale. Okay. If your eyes were closed, this is the time to open them. We are going to get onto our knees, and we're going to start off in puppy pose. So our knees are wide and apart, our feet are closer together, and we are going to walk our arms out, resting our head onto the mat. And we're going to continue taking a few deep breaths in this position. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale one more time. And exhale. On this next inhale, we're actually going to walk our arms out to the right of us. So both hands are going to be now off the mat. We are going to press firmly with this left hand. And as we press firmly, we're drawing our hips back to the mat. And we could feel a nice stretch on our side body here. So the harder you press with your hands, the more stretch you should feel on the side of your body. And holding this position for a while, maybe we want to do subtle movements to see how this muscle feels for us today. Walking our hands back to center. We are going to walk to the left of us now. Same thing. Actively pressing down on the ground as we draw our hips back. Feeling that nice stretch on our lateral muscle right here. Okay, let's walk back to center. We're actually going to come up on all fours now and enter our cat-cow. So on an inhale, we are going to round our back. Exhale, we are going to arch our back. And when we arch our back, we're drawing our shoulders to our hips. So we're actively engaging our shoulders during this motion. Inhale, rounding the back. Exhale, arching. One more time, inhale, round the back. And exhale, arch. Good. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of a calf stretch now. So our right leg is going to extend behind us, and we're actually going to draw our heel to the back of us, or to the back of the room. And you'll notice a deep calf stretch. In this motion, we are pressing firmly with our hands. So when we do this, it's called active hands, essentially. So we're actually pressing down, engaging our shoulders, engaging our back a little bit. Passive hands are when they are nice and rested on the mat. Okay, beautiful. And from this position, we're actually going to rotate this bent knee. So our foot is going to come off the mat behind us, as this back leg kind of slightly rotates, and our arm, we're going to raise it up to the ceiling. Open up that nice heart chakra. And then coming back to the mat, resting both legs back into our tabletop position. And now again, With the left leg, we're going to draw our heel back to the wall. I'm trying to see what's behind me. Feeling a nice deep calf stretch. Good, and now rotating this left leg now behind us. The straight leg shifts, so we're parallel with our hips, and our arm is now reaching up to the ceiling. Good, and coming back to tabletop position. Awesome. From here, we're going to tuck under our toes, lift our hip up into downward dog. The first downward dog in every sequence is a play downward dog. So this is actually a good time for you to kind of get comfortable with your movement. Maybe you want to pedal your knees a little bit, wave your hip a little bit. Maybe you want to do a little dips with your hips. This is a free flow time right now. Do whatever your body is telling you to do, whatever your body is craving. Again, we are pushing firmly with our hands onto the mat. Engaging those shoulders. Good. Okay, on an inhale, we are going to start walking to the top of the mat. So let's start walking. Beautiful. Awesome. And from here, we're going to do...
that's hard.
It is, right? And then from here, we're going to do our first sun salute. So inhale, coming halfway, creating space. Exhale, lower our chest. Inhale, bringing our arms, sweeping it all the way up. Beautiful. Exhale, going all the way back down into forward fold. One more time. Inhale, coming halfway. Exhale, lowering our chest to the bottom. Inhale, sweeping our arms up. And exhale, forward fold. Beautiful. This is very traditional, this sequence.
Oh, much harder than it looks.
Yeah, I know, right? Beautiful. Okay. Now let's make sure our feet are hips width apart. We're going to start pedaling our knees a little bit.
I can't touch the floor.
I love it though. It's okay. All right. Okay. Bend your knees very slightly. We are going to take a nice big step back into our plank position. Beautiful. Beautiful. And then from here, we're going to do our first chaturanga. So if you want, you could drop the knees. Yeah.
That's a cool one.
You could drop the knees, lowering our chest to the mat. Beautiful.
Bum.
Bum down.
Oh my God, push up.
So we do, our knees are firmly on the mat, and we're actually kind of bringing our chest a little bit forward. So we're lying down flat on the mat. So we're like this. Beautiful. Inhale, shifting our gaze up into upward dog. Beautiful. Exhale, coming back down, resting our torso on the mat, tucking our toes underneath, and we're going to lift ourselves up into downward dog. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, so from here, we are going to start off with the right leg. It's going to be a little bit of an ab motion, but we're going to bend our right leg, bring it to the outside of our arm where our elbow is, and drop. Beautiful. Oh. So this is our lizard pose. Traditional, this is lunge, but this is our lizard pose. We're going to drop this knee onto the mat, and we're actually going to open up our hips a little bit. So get our arms gently, very, very gently pushing our knee away from us, and we're going to start shifting, rotating our torso towards the ceiling, shifting our gaze up a little bit. Beautiful, beautiful. Ooh, that feels good, yeah. Inhaling and exhaling. Good. Okay, coming back into center. We're going to enter our half split. So this leg is going to straighten up. We're going to shift our bum back. And we're going to stretch our nice hamstring muscle here. So maybe lift your butt off of your knee. Or not your knee, your heel.
Like that? Am I doing it?
Yeah, lift it up a little bit. So I think you could actually bring this leg a little forward. There you go. And then we're going to actually lower our torso, not our bum. So from this, bring this forward. There you go. You could rest your hands. Excellent.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, you feel a little bit more of that stretch.
I don't think I've ever stretched this area in my life.
Good, good, good. All right, inhale. We're going to come back into that lunge position. Beautiful. Now we're going to lift our knee off of the mat. Excellent. With our right hand, we're going to draw our elbow into our chest. Exhale, we're going to shift, bring our arm up over us, the back of the room. This is another good stretch.
Oh, this feels good.
Yeah. Coming back into center, inhale. Exhale, bringing it back around us. Inhale, coming back to center. One more time. Exhale, shifting our arm behind us. Good, and back into center. From here, we're actually going to straighten this leg, if you can. And then we're gonna drop this back heel. Good, good, good. And this is our side triangle, essentially. So we're going to get our right hand, place it onto the mat if we can, or fingertips is perfectly fine. We're actually going to rotate our arm up, stretching. Inhaling and exhaling here for a bit. Good, and dropping our arm back, bending this knee, and then we're going to try our best to bring this knee back into downward dog. Beautiful, beautiful. Rolling forward again, dropping the knees into our chaturanga. Excellent. Exhale up into upward dog. Inhale, downward dog. Perfect. Awesome. All right, again, now we're going to get the left leg, bending the left leg, bringing our knee to the outside of our elbow, and then dropping it. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. You
Getting
got
used to
it.
this.
Okay. Dropping this back knee, and we're going to open up the hip a little bit. So very gently pushing the knee away from you as you rotate your chest to the ceiling. Focus on that breath. Beautiful. Coming back to center. And now again, we're going to straighten this front leg, shifting our hips back. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And remember, we're folding from the torso,
Right.
not lowering with the hips. So forward with the torso. Perfect, perfect, perfect. It's a lot of like mobility stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my gosh.
All right. Inhale, coming back into that lunging position. Exhale, we're going to straighten our leg, drop this back foot, and we're going to enter our side triangle again. Perfect. Straighten this front leg. No, it's okay. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Now this left hand or fingertips are on the mat, and then we're going to bring our arm up to the ceiling, stretching that front body. Perfect. Exhaling, dropping the arm back to the mat, and we're going to bend that knee once more, the front knee. Tucking it in, and then exhaling into our downward dog. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Good, we're gonna chill out here for a little bit. Maybe we wanna pedal the knees or pedal the feet a little. Beautiful, and on your next inhale, we're gonna start walking. So inhale. Start walking up to the mat again. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Excellent. All right, and now we're going to do our chair position. So our feet are firmly on the mat, hips width apart. We're actually going to drop our hips, bending our knees, entering a chair position. So it's essentially like you're sitting in a chair. The goal here is to not make your knees surpass your toes. So you want to sit as far back as possible. Perfect, perfect. It's hard, it's hard. Yeah, it is.
Fall.
Perfect. We're going to hold it here. Sometimes bringing our arms to center is a little bit better. The key is to not kind of pop your booty out. We want to tuck in our pelvis to help protect our back. Yeah, right? So if we're that yeah. Like this.
Okay.
It's hard,
Yeah,
right? But that's good. That's very good. Good. Inhale, coming up to standing. Exhale, once more, dropping into chair. Now, I want you to try your best to lower as far down as you can.
Oh God.
Once you need to drop your hands to help you out. Slow and surely. Maybe until your bum could touch. Perfect. That was awesome.
Woo.
All right.
You guys, don't let these slow movements fool you. I'm so sweaty.
All right. Straighten out our legs now. All right. We're just going to jiggle them a little bit. Shake everything off. Shake everything off. Inhale, enter into our forward fold. Spending a few breaths here. When we do our exhale, the goal is to create a deeper stretch. So when you inhale, you actually lift a little bit, creating space. And when you exhale, you go deeper into your stretch. Inhale, creating space. Exhale, going deeper into the stretch. Beautiful. Coming up, we are going to tuck in this left foot, and this leg is going to create a nice triangle while this one is nice and straight. And we're just going to do a nice side stretch. When we do a side stretch, I notice a lot of people tend to curve their body. The goal is to keep it straight, and it's almost like a string is pulling onto our hand. So we're trying to stretch as far as possible, as if we're trying to touch that TV right there. Good. And on the next inhale, we're going to come up back to center. And so from here, lifting our knee, so our knee is now into our chest. All right. We're going to get our hook finger. We're going to hook it actually onto our toe. So the right hand with the left foot, and we're actually going to straighten this leg out. Letting go of this arm now. Beautiful. And from here, we're going to actually rotate and try our best to look behind us. There's a little bit of a core engagement, a little bit of a back engagement. Beautiful. And coming back, we're going to grab our foot, if we can. Good. Or we could grab here. It's totally fine. Cool. And then see if we could raise it a little higher. Good. Now slowly, we're going to drop our leg. Slowly until it rests onto the mat. Beautiful. And now same with the other leg. We're going to tuck in this foot, creating that nice triangle, straighten out this leg, and we're going to enter into our side stretch. Beautiful. Inhaling and exhaling. Same here, we're trying to deepen into the stretch with every exhale. Beautiful. And the next inhale, coming back up into center. Bringing this knee so it's now tucked into our chest. And again, we're going to get this left hand hooking onto the right foot and extending this right leg. Beautiful. With the right arm now, we're going to draw it back behind us, stretching it as far as we can, trying to engage that core. Beautiful. On the inhale, we're going to bring our arm back, grabbing our calf, grabbing our foot, and trying to see if we could bring our leg a little higher, closer to us. Good. And very slowly, we're going to drop it down to the mat. Try maybe not to support it too much. Use those hip flexors. Good. Very nice. And again, we're going to jiggle everything out. All right. Tucking our feet in. We're going to now start to roll onto the back. Okay. And this is probably my favorite pose. We're just going to gently rock side to side.
Oh yeah, I'm liking this one.
Right? This one's like the best. Okay. While we keep this right leg still tucked in, we're going to actually straighten out the left leg. Still holding this right leg, we're going to bring the right leg to the left of us, dropping it down to the floor. And then we're actually going to get this right hand, try to straighten it out beside us. Our gaze is looking to the right of us. So we get this nice back stretch as well as a chest stretch. This is one of the poses where if you hold it the longest or hold it longer, you get the most benefit. Good. Keeping this leg still bent, we're going to roll back to center. Good. Drawing both knees into our chest once more. Maybe rocking side to side a little bit. And then now we're going to straighten out that right leg while we hold on to the left one. Beautiful. Dropping that left leg to the right of us as we extend our left arm to the left of us. My left and right to the worst.
No, you don't mind.
It's okay. Good. And our gaze is to the left as well. Keeping this leg still tucked in, we're going to roll back to center. And now we're going to extend the legs, so now both of them are straight, and we're going to rest in Savasana. So Savasana is in every yoga class. It's a corpse pose. This is time for us to settle in with our body, see how our body feels after the movement. We're really weighing down our body onto the mat. And this is just a time for you to breathe and be silent. Focusing on the inhales and the exhales. Alright, we're going to wake up the body now, starting with our fingers. So start to wiggle your fingers, maybe wiggle your toes even. Creating that sensation, awareness to these parts of our body. Maybe we want to start opening up the chest a little bit, wiggling our legs. Okay. And to get up, we're actually going to roll to the side of us. We're going to start to roll to the side and gently push yourself up. Very gently. Beautiful. Excellent. And like any traditional yoga class, we're going to end off by saying namaste. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for like having
I feel
me.
so great.
Yeah.
I feel amazing.
It was very quick, very short, but
it was amazing.
It was good.
Very impactful.
Aw,
Thank you so much, girl. You did
you.
amazing.
Thanks.